watch the video. Hope you enjoy it. Like and subscribe to the channel. And when we're done, I'll do a draw of all my subscribers and someone will get the sluice box. And I'm going to give that away as a prize to one of my subscribers. Hello everybody, today I'm going to make a sluice box, or my version of a sluice box, and I'm going to go through the process step by step with you and show you how I do it. So this is my sheet of aluminium. It's 4 feet by 4 feet and I'm hoping to get at least 2 sluice boxes out of this. So what we need to do first of all is to mark it out, and then the width of it I tend to just make it whatever I have the metal for. So in this case I've got a few sheets of expanded metal, so put that on just to keep me right. 12, it's not quite 8 3/4, it's just over 8 1/2. But anyway, we measure that to there, leave a little bit of room, and then another 4 inches, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'll be the width on our box, that'll be the floor and the 2 sides. Okay, once we have our width sorted out, we need to think about how long we're going to make this box. So we're going to make this sluice box 36 inches or 3 feet long for the main chassis. And then we are going to have to allow for the flare on the end. So this is going to be the main box section here. Another thing to remember is the length of the long tom or the length of the sluice will affect how long you can leave it in the water for without having to do a clean out. Right, so we've measured out the main area for the sluice. This is going to be the floor, these are the 2 sides. The other thing we need to consider is the flare plate. I have a couple of flare plates here from some of my little prospecting boxes, the Pioneer boxes, which I haven't quite finished yet, but this is what we need to make to go on to the end of this. Okay, so I'll measure one out, show you how I make these, and then we'll start cutting. The flare plate is to allow you to draw extra water in when you put it in the river. So if you put this in like this, it's going to catch a bigger volume of water and channel it down into the main box, just to increase or decrease your flow. So it has to be slightly narrower than the box, so it sits inside like that. I'll measure out first of all 10 inches. Off one of my offcuts. What we need to do is start with the widest edge first and then measure the inner edge, which makes it a bit easier. Now I'm allowing a 2-inch rise on each of that. So what I'm going to do with this offcut is I'm going to run this on out to the edge of the board so I don't waste too much aluminium, because it's not cheap. And then I'm going to take 2 inches in this side, 2 inches in this side, and that'll be the side. But this bit here on this side needs to be the one, according to this, the one that needs to be 8 1/2 inches, 8 1/2, just slightly under 8 1/2. So I need to measure this. This is 16 3/4 less 8 1/2 is 8 1/4 divided by 2 is 4 1/8. So we measure 4 1/8 of that side, and then we measure, this is the footery bit, 4 1/8 of this side, and then we draw those 2 lines up. There to there. There. Now the same thing applies. We want the 2-inch lip on this edge as well, so I'll mark 2 inches in of that, and mark 2 inches of that, and we'll draw those to the corners. Draw this to the corner. And that will make us our flare plate. So this, just to double check if we cut anything, because you only get a chance to cut it once, should be 8, just under 8.5, and this is 8, just over 8.5, so that'll give it a little bit just to sit inside for the attachment, which we'll show you later on. I'm going to cut this aluminium now, and I'm lucky I have a friend with a metal guillotine, which makes the job very easy, but you can just use a jigsaw, or there's different tools you can use for cutting aluminium. It is quite soft metal and it tears and frays quite a bit, so if you've got access to a guillotine, I recommend you use that, or some kind of plasma cutter. So anyway, it's time to cut it. So that's them all cut into shape. The next job we have to do is bend them. So they're back over to the workshop, and we need to bend these up at angles. As part of the drop-riffle plate that we're going to set in the sluice box, we need 2 side pieces that go along the sluice to hold the bars in place. So we're going to measure those out now and then cut those and ready for the box. You don't need to be too heavy, just a couple of inches across, just something to mount the drop riffles onto and then fix to the inside of the sluice. I make them usually 2 inches. There, we cut those out. As part of this riffle plate as well, we have to make the riffle bars. I usually make them about 1 inch across and then bend them in the middle. That gives us room to float them and to set them in the bar. So I'm going to cut out 2 at this length, and that should be more than enough. They have to go across the width of the sluice, and there has to be a bit allowed for the sides as well, for bending up and for mounting them. So what we need to do is cut a couple of these, and we also need a couple for the top of the box to go on at the nugget traps, which I'll show you in a moment. Once you have your aluminium all measured out and cut, the next job is to bend it. I'm fortunate enough to have a box folder, so I can do it quite easily, but you can also use a vise and hammer it around, or you can clamp it onto a straight edge. Just make sure you get it straight and even along, just take your time at it, because this is, you only get one chance at it, and if you don't do it straight, you won't get it right. So I have bent the box, I bent my flare plate, and we are now ready to put them together and to start filling it up with things to catch the gold. The only way to make sure you're catching both is to have places for both to settle. So I've actually built nugget traps into my sluice boxes, because I find that the bigger pieces travel much farther down the sluice, just simply because they're catching more water. I know they're heavier, so what I do is I do a section of 3 inspection mats, and I build in 2 nugget traps. And the nugget traps tend to be where I find most of the gold during my cleanups. So I'll show you what I'm chatting about with a nugget trap. It's nothing too complicated. So I'll put in a top inspection plate. You can imagine the water's coming in here, and that's the first place, and you will see specks of gold here and here. Then what I do is I put a riffle bar in here, so we'll put it in a moment. I leave a gap in the mats, like that, and I put in another piece of matting, like so. Just leave about a centimetre and a half of a gap. And then I do a second one down here, and I leave another centimetre and a half of a gap, and that allows a bit of a hole for the bigger stuff to fall in behind the riffles. So once we've glued those mats into place, we put 2 permanent riffles on here, and then what I call a lift plate, which lifts the material up onto the miner's moss. We'll come to that in a moment. So let's glue these in and do this stage, and then I'll show you more what I'm talking about. Once we have the 3 sections of matting glued in at the top, those are just setting with those in with some of this anchor set waterproof glue. I've made these little bars from the 1 inch pieces we cut earlier on, and I put them in the box folder and just put a sort of a 40 to 45 degree angle on them, uplift. Now we need to measure these to fit in here. These are the permanent riffles that don't come out, and we need one for here for the 2 nugget traps, and then we need the longer one, this lift plate, to lift the material over the top of the miner's moss and the expanded metal. Right. the riffle bars into place on top of the mat and gives a good seal and stops any goals sliding in behind them. And then the slightly longer at the top here gives you a section to put your miner's moss under and your expanded metal. And we're going to do it now. We're going to do our miner's moss. One of the most expensive parts of making a sluice box is the miner's moss, but I thoroughly recommend it. Some people will tell you you don't need it, and different forms of rubber matting do just as good a job, but I don't believe that, and I've found from personal experience that the miner's moss is your fail safe. Anything coming off the rubber mats or into the nuggets will definitely end up caught in here, and that's tried and tested. But because it's expensive, I advise you to really take your time cutting it, and when you're cutting it, it expands and stretches, so it's quite hard to do. So just take your time. I have that pretty well lined up now. And don't pull at it, just even if you have to go across it several times, just cut a bit at a time. Because you really don't want to waste this stuff, it's too expensive. There we go. And it should fit. Because the plastic's still in aluminium, it should be a little bit snug. So that comes off. Perfect. That's 100%. Okay, so once that's in, then we put our expanded metal on, making sure it's facing the right way. I must remember the riffles have to downstream. 2 sections like that. And then what we need is our riffle plate that sits on top of that again for another 3 or 4 riffles down here. That holds it all in place. So let's get busy and make our riffle plate. This is the hardest part of the whole operation, is making these riffle plates and getting them to sit in really square. Right, these are the 2 little off-cut end plates that we made earlier on from our leftovers, and these form the sides of a little riffle plate that we put on here that holds everything in place. So there'll be one on that side, one on this side, and then using some of our bent riffle material, there's one I have marked out, those go in like that. Now we just cut these with the jigsaw like that, cut that base out like that, and that will give us our riffle, and those pieces bend up and attach to this, and that will give us 3 more drop riffles on the way down the sluice. You'll notice when I'm cutting this I'm wearing my ever so attractive safety goggles, but they are important because aluminium's soft, it's easy to cut, and it fires chips in all directions. I have lots of pieces in my eye, so I invested in a pair of these, and believe me, it's well worth it. This is the template for the riffles, for the riffle plates that you need, and we're going to need 3 of these for this particular riffle plate. And when we're done, we bend these corners up and we rivet those onto the side walls. You need to bend these up to kind of a 90-degree angle. Just take your time doing this, because if you make them too small or too wide, you have to rebend them, and you can weaken the aluminium a lot by doing it. So you're aiming for something like that, so the water's coming in and up over your riffle. To the other side as well. Try to get it, there's plenty of wiggle room with aluminium, it's quite soft, but get it as close as you can with that, and then you can manipulate it when you're ready. So that is our 45-degree drop riffle. I sometimes vary these angles a little bit. Everyone says 45 degrees, some people say 25 degrees, slight ones, but I try to make them all slightly different to give myself the maximum chance. Right, whenever we're making our riffle plate, it's very important that everything's square across the expanded metal. So we put one side in and we attach the three sides, the three riffles, and then we line up the second one, mark it, and drill it, and that makes the riveting process a lot easier. If you're making one of these and you get it wrong for at least 7 or 8 tries, don't worry about it, so did I. It's really footery. This is the difficult part, and to get everything lined up square takes a long time until you kind of get used to what you're doing. Even then you can still get it wrong sometimes. But don't be disheartened, this is the hardest part of making the whole sluice. Okay, all's gone according to plan. This should fit in, and it's pretty much perfect, which is good. For mounting the riffle plate, I just put 4 bolts and wing nuts in from the sides, and that holds everything in place, so just screw those in. Okay, but now to check everything's together. We've only 2 more jobs to do, and we're done. We need to put a little bit of rubber matting underneath this here, and we need to attach our feed plate. One last thing before I fit the flare is I put a little bit of matting upside down, because what will happen is the water coming off the flare, like your first riffle, it'll turn underneath, and just so it doesn't come right out the back of it, I like to glue a little strip on here. This stuff, Gorilla Glue, that just holds it in place. Make sure you don't lose anything at the top end. So, just a piece of mat upside down. There we go. And then if any gold comes in, it gets stopped on that and won't come right out. Sure. Last job is to set our flare plate in place. It's just very straightforward. You want to make sure it comes in nice and square onto the V matting. Pick a line in your V matting, line it up, and then screw in from either side. Now if you screw it quite low down on this, you can tilt this up and down in the river to catch more or less water. So we put that together now. And the nice thing about these flare plates with just 2 hinges, they're flexible, is when it's in the river, you can tilt it up or down like that to allow for more or less flow, and then tighten them in when you have your flow set just right. finishing touch, the Dirt Locker logo sticker. There we go, one sluice to last a lifetime. Okay, here we have the finished product, a Dirt Locker Mining Corporation, which is me, sluice box. This will be a prize in a draw for one of my subscribers at the end of the month, end of September. And if you just like the video and subscribe, you'll be entered into the draw automatically. So thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned, there'll be more videos to come.